Welcome to Inspire Me with Jay. This is a podcast to inspire, uplift, show forth the love of God, and help usher in the spiritual awakening. Welcome to Inspire Me with Jay. I'm your host, Jay Spillers, author and teacher. I have a guest today. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, Jay. How are you?
I'm
So
doing
great to
good.
be here. I am Lynn, and I'm a transformational life coach and author. And I help women over 30 find love by being authentic selves. So I'm glad to be here with you today so that we can share some tips, some tricks, wisdom, and what we have gone through as well, and how we got to the place of bliss and joy and all of that that comes in life.
So, how did you get involved in transformational coaching, and what's your story in terms of transformation?
Wow. My story begins when I was in my 20s. I went through a very dark time at that time, and I had someone who kind of reached out and gave me their hand, kind of pulled me out really, and truly opened my eyes to a whole another world. I was in a place where I was very unhappy in terms of where I was at, what I was doing, where I was going. It just seemed so hopeless that when you have someone like that who comes and kind of grabs you and pulls you out, it means so much. And so it was actually my coach. And so while I worked with her, she basically said, look, you have so much wisdom, you have so much experience, you've gone through so much. Have you ever considered doing any type of coaching or maybe consulting or counseling? And I was always that individual that everybody would come to and ask for help, and that friend that everybody would confide in. But I never really had that space for myself. And so I decided, I'm like, okay, maybe I'll go to school just to kind of understand the human behavior, the experience. So I decided to sign up, and I did my undergrad in psych. So figured, hey, if I know what I'm dealing with, first with myself and then with everybody else, perhaps world wouldn't be such a scary place. And so I did not become a coach until about 6 years ago professionally. So I've done sort of consulting. I've done that whole coaching aspect of life was really something that kind of emerged about 6 years ago as I found myself in another transition in my life. I was a mom, I was a wife, and I again was sort of at the fork in the road in terms of what do I want to do? How do I want to do it? We tend to kind of go through these phases in life where when you get to the point of I'm not happy, something has to give, then you really have to kind of dig inside and find out what that is for you. And so I'm sure you have had the same phase too, Jay. So I'm
Mhm.
gonna ask you, how how did you get into this? How did you get to write all these books, all of these things? Like there has to be something, right, that happens within you that kind of says, okay, hey, like you need to share this with the world. Stop hiding, just share it, inspire, help those change their lives as well. And that's basically why I do what I do.
So, is there a difference between like transformational coaching and just regular life coaching?
Transformational coaching goes a level deeper, and it does touch on the whole neurological aspect of things. What I like to do is to really work on reframing things Because a lot of our thinking, a lot of our process is very much conditioning, and it's sort of the beliefs that we tend to absorb from, moms, dads, grandmas, grandpas, teachers, bosses. And so when it comes to really transforming your life, you get to understand that most of that conditioning is not even yours. It's really finding the authentic side of yourself. Like, who are you under that mask? And so when it comes to transformational coaching, for me, is really you showing up authentically is going to kind of open the window of opportunity to attract authentic individuals into your life. Because from what I've seen over the last 20 years, is really that people are unhappy because they're living somebody else's life. And they're having somebody else's idea of success. And so they're chasing these things, thinking that once they get there, they're going to be happy. But that is really not the case. Not until you really turn inward and figure things out for yourself. Who are you? What is it that you want? What is the essence? What were you created to do in this world? And that's where the true transformation happens.
You get into like neuro-linguistic programming and different things like that.
Exactly. A reframe is basically what I like to use, because the way you reframe things, you can see it from different sides, right? Like, you have a story, for example, and you've been telling yourself for years and years and years. So you've really conditioned that. So your the connections in your brain are going to guide you through your life based on that belief. So looking at the situation from another angle, reframing it, truly helps you get out of that sense of feeling stuck and not really understanding that there's another way. Sometimes you cannot see the way out. And so what I like to do is I like to kind of, reframe this along with really kind of provoke their thinking. Because when you do that, you have a whole another world that kind of opens up for you. You see a lot of opportunities. You see things in a different light, so to speak.
Well, does a lot of it get into how do you define success? And maybe success could be as simple as I'm happy and I have peace of mind right now, and start there. And I don't necessarily have to be at a certain income level or have a certain person in my life to be happy in this moment.
Right, right, absolutely. I mean, success really is something that you need to define for yourself. For the way I grew up, success was education. So I've literally spent my life chasing degrees. I have an undergrad degree, then I have a grad school degree, then I have a life coaching degree, then I have success coaching degree. And so I've been kind of going through life collecting all these accolades to make me feel worthy and make me feel successful. Whereas in reality, all I needed was truly to find my path and to know who I was. And it was sort of 20 years in the making to get to this point, to get to the point where it's like success for me is being able to be me, being able to show the world the imperfect version of me and the transition that I'm continuing to go through, because I feel that we go through the phases as we grow. And the more we learn, the more we discover we don't know. So accepting the fact that, there's still so much you still need to learn is something that I find to be success in my life. So for you, it could be, having your family, having your kids, all of these things. And so really turning the lens on yourself, tuning in, kind of connecting to the source, connecting to the divine, to God, whatever it is that you believe in, to truly kind of find your way in the world and determine, okay, so this is where I'm happy, this is where I'm blessed, this is where I'm joyful, is important.
Well, when you say you want to show yourself to the world in terms of who you are, do you ever struggle with
Mhm.
feeling invisible? Like I want to be there, but nobody sees me.
I used to, not anymore, not anymore. And the reason why is because I believed that I wasn't worthy of being seen. So I always found ways to hide. I always found ways to mask things up, have a smile when I didn't feel like smiling, or chasing things that were not really in line with me, but the would have, should have, could have kind of thing. And so when you get to the point of really accepting yourself for who you are, then you no longer feel like you're not being seen. You know, and you believe that you're worthy of being seen. And those who are supposed to be in your life, who are supposed to see you, actually do see you for who you are. And that's, it's basically, it takes steps, right? It takes sort of uh intentional work that you need to do on yourself, a lot of inner work, a lot of inner reflection to get to the point where you accept yourself, because you're not going to be everybody's cup of tea. Not everybody is going to see you the way you want to be seen. But that doesn't mean that you're not worthy of being seen.
Hmm.
And when you grasp that concept, when you understand that, then you don't worry about it, right? People who matter to you are going to see you, they're going to accept you. And those that don't, that's fine. And you're still going to be at peace with that as well. Because we have grown up in this notion, or in this sense of, oh, I need to compete, or I need to do something to be worthy. You're already worthy by just being here. The fact that you were born is a gift. And everything that you do along the way that is aligned with you is going to help you really grow into this self-accepting, self-loving human soul, you know. And so for me, it took about 10 years for me to really get there. So it's work, it's intention, it's work, it's trying. And things are not going to happen immediately, obviously, because your wiring has to be rewired. And when that starts happening, then you can override all these beliefs and all these things that are keeping you stuck.
Well, I mean, is part of it just sort of letting go of a numbers game? Like, I don't know if I'll ever influence millions of people, but whether I do or whether I just influence a handful of people, I'll try to be there and be present for them.
Exactly. I mean, the way I see it is, even if I touch one life per day, it's worth it, because that life is going to touch other lives. Because when I work with the client, I not only work with them, I don't only see, us one-on-one working, transforming. I see their life transforming, people in their life transforming, people at their work transforming. Because when you show up differently in the world, people around you are going to show up as well in a completely different light. And so for me, even if I were to touch one life, even if I were to inspire someone to take to take the first step, that's worthy. And it makes me happy and it makes me smile.
So, like, when someone comes into you, what do you usually do initially with them, and what kind of program would you put forward for somebody?
We usually work one-on-one, and it's really custom tailored to them. So depending what they do. So most of my clients have come from a place of trauma, of emotional abuse, even physical abuse in their life, as well in their relationships. And so, what I assess first and foremost, have they worked through that? And are they able to work on what it is that we need to work on? the way I assess it is if you have gone to therapy and you have done the whole trauma healing, then you might be at the neutral state where we can start to build the foundational blocks for you that you can build on. So it's really case by case. But I'm very much very much sensitive to the fact that if someone has any type of lingering trauma, that they deal with that first, because trauma can impact you on so many levels, and it could be small, it could be big. So having that talk, having them share that with me is important, because then I can assess whether or not they can do the work that we need to do, because it's tough. I mean, going through transformation is hard. Turning the lens on yourself is hard. You're going to be triggered. You're going to be reminded of things that you may have not, remembered. Because sometimes what I like to do is I do go back in time to kind of assess, okay, what are some of the things that have happened, so that we can start to reframe them, so that we can let go of all that baggage, all that weight, so that we can make room for the new. Because as long as you're dragging your past behind you, it's going to weigh you down. And no matter what you try to do, you're not going to succeed. It's going to be an uphill, sort of pushing the boulder up the hill. And it's just going to feel impossible. And then you're just going to give in and say, hey, it is what it is. That's my life. Where that's really not true. And so, yeah, and then we could work from 12 weeks to 6 months. It just depends what it is that they need to do or transform with.
Well, as part of the process, do you use hypnotherapy in part of the rewiring and NLP work?
I do not. We do intentional meditation to kind of get you in a state of relaxation, but I have not done any hypno.
Mm-hmm.
You
Well,
might in the future. I don't know.
yeah. Well, it's kind of similar, because
Yeah.
it's like whether it's meditation or hypnotherapy, you sort of have to get a person to like well, you might say a trance state or an altered state of awareness, different brain
This
waves.
consciousness.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So.
Yes, because we operate subconsciously 98%. Like the stuff that we do on a day-to-day basis is a repetitive thing that we do every day. So we're on autopilot consistently. So trying to inspire change in those 2% that are left of your consciousness is hard. And that's why you have to figure out the modalities that work, to be able to really kind of penetrate into that subconscious, to be able to make that change. And it could help, like hypnosis can help, meditation helps too. But what I found to be the most effective truly is repetitiveness, doing things intentionally over and over again, because every time you do that, you grow new brain cells that override the old connections. And it has been proven. Actually, there's a video that shows the schemers and how they connect. It's really, really neat, to how it connects and rewrites the connections that you have in your brain.
Have you ever wanted to learn to meditate? Check out my book, Meditation for Everyone: How to Quickly Have a More Peaceful, Mindful, and Fulfilled Life, and support this channel. With Meditation for Everyone, you will learn to quickly and easily meditate, relieve stress and anxiety, alleviate depression, and have more joy, peace, and relaxation. What you will learn: mindfulness, the art of stillness, step by step on how to meditate, strategies for overcoming challenges to meditation, and much more. D. Mason said this is a nice meditation book, even for those already meditating. I agree with the statements that it will help to have a more peaceful, mindful, and fulfilled life. 4.6-star rating, available on Amazon. Well, like in terms of repetitiveness, do you try to get them to repeat things that are kind of hard initially. Like if you don't like to make a lot of phone calls, but you need to make phone calls, you do it daily, or you do certain writing or something if you are working on
Yes.
something.
For my clients is usually getting back out to date. They are hiding. They don't want to do the apps. They don't want to be dating. They don't want to get their heart broken. They don't want to waste their time. There's all these excuses that they give me. But the point is that you get better in the doing, and you have to make yourself do things you don't want to do. That's where the change happens. That's where the transformation happens. Because we are, you know, our habits are basically what drives our behavior, and our behavior creates actions, and those actions create the reality that we're in. So if you're unhappy with the life that you have right now, change your habits. And that's how it begins, because with changing your habit, rewriting the habit changes your behavior, and that behavior is going to change your results. And so when you understand that and you're really intentional with that, and that's where it helps to really have someone kind of take you by the hand and just kind of give you that push. For me, I always push my clients to get out of their comfort box, because nothing grows in the comfort box. And you know that, Jay, right? Like, to be
Mhm.
able to transform, to be able to impact the world, to be able to do these things, you had to go out, you had to share your story, you wrote your books, right? Like, how would
Mhm.
anybody know that you're capable of doing that if you did not take action, if you didn't do this yourself?
Mhm.
And so, did you have a coach as well?
No, no, I've been meditating for quite a few years and just started meditating initially and then worked through a lot of things like depression and whatever years ago. And so I just sort of went
Did
from
you
there,
have
and then I wrote a
mentor,
first book.
counselor, anybody? Because I'm sure you didn't do it on your own, did you?
Well, I watched a lot of things and I watched different things online and stuff, but you know.
Okay. Yeah, because I feel like we all have had that one individual in our life where we looked up to, or someone who really kind of told us, hey, you can do it. Because if you have someone who believes in you, then you're going to start to believe in yourself eventually.
Hmm. Well, I did like a lot of Tony
And
Robbins books.
so,
Mm, yeah.
yeah, there you, I mean, Tony is definitely someone that, yeah, I remember when I began. Yeah, when I opened up my business, he and I had a quick chat on his birthday on LinkedIn, and I basically shared that with him. And I said, "Do you have any tips?" And he goes, "Just continue to keep your zeal." And I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna keep my zeal." And every time, because we all go through emotions, right? You can wake up in the morning and just be really low, and you just don't feel like doing things. You got to put things in place to energize you. And so what I do is I prime myself every morning. Like, I meditate, then I just sit still and kind of set an intention. Like, what do I want to do and accomplish in a day? What message do I want to put across in the world? And on the days, of course, where I'm really, really low, then I remember that chat with him. Like, okay, keep your zeal up. Like, you got to have that zeal for life. And the fact that you got to wake up in the morning and open your eyes, you have the opportunity to make something wonderful, make someone smile, open someone's door, make someone feel special. Because I feel that the more we're in service, the more we can feel fulfilled. And the more we choose to see the blessings that we have, such as our warm bed, water, electricity, warmth, all these basic needs, sometimes we take so for granted. Whereas in other parts of the world, there are people who are, living in tents and having to worry about bombs and not having water or food. And, so it's really, when you're in that space of darkness, I feel it's important to remember the blessings that you have and the little things. And I used to do it every single day when I was in that dark place. I used to get up in the morning and having to remind myself to be intentional with my day, to get out in the sun for 10 minutes, even though I wanted to just crawl in my hole and just not talk to anybody, not see anybody. But slowly and surely you push yourself out. And that's when you can see, okay, there's beauty around me. I'm truly blessed for these things. And what's the next step that I can take to get me to a place where I can feel more of that? Because the more you're grateful, the more God, the divine, will going to give you to be grateful for. Because it's sort of that law of attraction that they say, right? But it's really law of vibration. If you're blessed, if you're grateful, if you are looking at life from, oh my gosh, I'm so lucky, then you're going to see things and opportunities that are going to validate that. But if you get in and you're like, oh, I have so many problems, then you're going to get more problems to deal with, because that's what you're focusing on.
Well,
right? Because
oh, go
your
ahead.
energy flows where your focus goes, right? We all know that.
Hmm.
And so it's truly being intentional with your thoughts and what you do on a day to day.
Yeah, like I was thinking when you're talking about dating, in some respects, it's kind of easier to date with dating websites because, like if you're socially awkward, your initial contact is with someone online and you know that the other person is looking for someone. So it's not like going to be awkward if, you know, you put yourself out there and they're not even interested in finding anybody,
Definitely.
you know?
Definitely. But see, it's the mindset that gets so many. It's the fact that it is the convenience, right? You can click a button or you can swipe left or right.
Hmm.
But it's the paradox of choice that makes things so much more difficult and exhausting for so many out there. Yes, there's actually 1,500 dating apps out there.
Mm.
And so figuring out which one is right for you, that in itself is a chore. And so, narrowing things down, and with our phones being little computers, we have lost that sense of connection. Like we are more disconnected than we are connected. And it feels that while it's a great thing, especially if you have any type of social anxiety or any type of issues in terms of communicating or kind of approaching or, making the first move, it's still difficult because you swipe right, you swipe left, like you really are not giving people a chance to get to know you, nor are you wanting to know someone, because how can you determine if someone is a good person just from their picture or what they write, right? You
Mhm.
have to get in the conversation. And so this is where I get a lot, oh, I just don't know what to talk about. And so what we do is we create a frame of, what are you going to talk about? What are some of the things that you can talk about? And there are ways in which you can structure your questions to really reveal a lot about who sits across from you. And so when you know how to communicate that, then it's easier to pre-qualify and to kind of sift through it. But you gotta have a plan. You gotta know what steps to take. And then you have to execute on those steps. Because if you don't, then you're not going to find love and you're just going to go in circle chasing your tail and you're not going to get anywhere. And then there's going to be excuse. There's nobody out there. There are millions of people out there who are looking for someone just like you, right? But you're not giving them the opportunity to get to know you. And so there's a lot of jumping to conclusion. There's just a lot of like dismissal. And that's what I see with the whole online dating world.
You're listening to the Inspire Me with Jay podcast. Please do like and subscribe to the channel, bringing hope and inspiration to the world.
Well, I guess you kind of have to decide too, are you just going to be looking in your local area or are you going to be looking all around? Because someone may have to relocate if,
Right.
you look for someone in a distant location, you know.
Absolutely. See, my husband and I lived in the US and he lived about 3,000 miles away. And for us to be together, he gave up his life there and moved to the US. So it's really determining what it is that you want and do your goals align and which of you are going to do the ultimate sacrifice to be able to make that happen. Because yes, you can have a long distance relationship, but if you don't have a sort of a mutual goal for the future, then it's just going to be, going back and forth. And then you're going to get to the point of, okay, here we are 5 years in, what now? And it's typically, okay, either, okay, ultimatum, like you need to do something or it's done. And so, yeah, you have to get clear on what that is that you want and what it is that you're willing to do to get it.
Mhm. So do you like start with a gratitude journal? Because you're talking about being grateful for everything you have. Do you have them journal every day of what they're grateful for?
In the beginning, when I assess, because some of them have done some of the work, they've done, journaling and stuff like that. So if they have done it, I typically don't. Usually what we do is we sit down and we look at what has happened in the past and then what could have been done differently. And then we set up a plan, basically, how many times a week are we going to go out and date? How are we going to have these discussions, conversations? What's going to happen? What is the cascading order in terms of, how many dates should we have before we have the exclusive talk and those types of things. But if you are beginning to really like want to transform your life, if you want to change your life, gratitude sort of is the first step. So what I have is write down 3 things that you're grateful for every day, whether it's in the morning or in the evening before you go to bed. Those are really the best times. And just repeat that for 7 to 10 days, and then you can add on to that list. It doesn't have to be something that, you need to really commit to. It could just be, okay, so this is a part of what I do in the morning. You can do it, 3 times a week where just sit and you just meditate, whether with music or if you just want to be still, just so that you can hear your thoughts. What are the things that are dancing around in my head? And write those down, because sometimes it helps to write things down, especially if you are overwhelmed, because life can be overwhelming. It can be really difficult trying to navigate everything. For clients of mine is, their kids, their families, their friends, their work, all of that can really weigh down on them, where they feel extremely overwhelmed. They don't sleep, they don't eat, and all of that can weigh you down to the point where you can actually end up in the hospital, as have I. Like before I did my whole transformation about 6 years ago, I ended up in the hospital for 3 consecutive months. I was so stressed out in my job that I worked for about 18 years. I was trying to, kind of climb up the ladder. And it just got to the point where I just couldn't do it anymore. I just couldn't do it anymore. And I landed in the hospital. And my doctor finally said, he's like, Isla, you will not walk out of this hospital the first time. You got to change something about this. And that's when I really sat down and turned inward, just to kind of see why am I allowing life to take over? Why am I not in charge of my life? Why am I being a victim in mindset? Was kind of listening in, like, what is it that you would want to do? If money and time were not of a concern, what would you be doing? And for me was I'd be teaching, I'd be guiding, I'd be sharing my wisdom. But at that time, I was very much hidden. I was not someone who would be out discussing or being in front of the camera, let alone being on a podcast, sharing things with the world, but I needed to become this new person and I just didn't know how to do that. So I started with really listening to meditation, inspirational videos, writing things down that came into my mind. And somewhere along the way, I ended up meeting people who would open doors for me, who would say, hey, why don't you join us here? And then I would go on and listen in, or I would have a talk with them. And so, really kind of building the fundamental steps as I was transitioning out of my life as it was. And so, you just have to discern that for yourself. Really, what works for you? What makes you feel good? For me, it was great. I was in the car on my way to work, and I'd be listening to, motivational speeches or audiobooks. Or, I mean, we have so many things that we can do right now. The point is to change your daily routine. When you start changing your daily routine, things are going to start shifting for you. Because once again, we're on autopilot 98% of the time, right? You get up in the morning, you brush your teeth, you make your coffee, you get in the car, you go to your destination, you do the same thing over again. Then you come home, you do the same thing over again, dinner, kids, homework, whatever. You go to bed, and the next day, rinse and repeat. So nothing is happening in your life.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, you're going to be in a rut, and of course, you're going to feel stuck. But if you get up in the morning and you brush your teeth with your other hand, then you've already interrupted that routine. Or if you get tea instead of coffee, that's another thing that you just changed. Then your brain is going to start to, say, oh my gosh, like what's happening now, right? And it's going to try to really move you back into your routine, but you have to be intentional with that, which means the following day, you're going to do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then again, and then again, and then again. And so one by one, you're going to sort of stack, right? Stack these new habits, which then eventually will become this new version of you.
Mm-hmm. So where can people reach out to you if they want to get in contact with you?
Facebook is the best way to reach me. And on Facebook, there's Linktree that you can also check out. If you want to grab my book is called Uncover Authentic You. And it's really a step-by-step guide to how to self-accept and how to discover your authentic self.
And your book's probably available on Amazon, isn't it?
Amazon, Barnes and Noble, yes.
Okay. So do you do most of your clients virtual or in person?
I do both. So for the most part, they're in UK, Europe, all around the US. So, Zoom typically is how we connect. But if there's anybody here in LA, then yes, I can meet them face to face.
So what's like one final word you'd like to leave with the audience before we close out?
I think one thing that I want to leave you with is that the way your life is right now, it can be different in 3 to 6 months if you do decide to take action. Even one small change is going to get you turning in a different direction, on a different journey, and then finding people along the way to help guide you who have been in your place and are now on the other side. You're not alone in your struggle. Things can be different. You can smile again, and you can find your path in life by really uncovering who you are and what that is that you're meant to do in this world.
Well, thanks for coming on today. It was a pleasure to have you.
It was a delight. Thanks.
Have you ever wondered whether the Bible was compatible with a near-death experience? In my book, Heaven's Truth, the parallels between the Bible and the near-death experience, your faith will be strengthened while you support this channel. In Heaven's Truth, you will learn about near-death experiences and other similar experiences in the Bible. Support for the Bible contained in NDEs, a central theme that runs through both the Bible and NDEs, how the NDE brings the Bible to life for these modern times, evidence for both the Bible and the NDE, and much more. Great book. Spillers does an excellent job weaving the relationship between NDEs and the scriptures. 5 stars on Amazon, available on Amazon.